whilst I've had a massive amount of fun unwittingly picking the most broken meta class of the game, as it currently stands in Path of Exile to the 3rd Edict, the Abyssal League, I am of course talking about the Lightning Arrow build with Deadeye Ranger, commonly utilized by bouncing lightning rods with Lightning Arrow and using your cold shots to put voltaic marks on enemies. Very powerful, absolute easy mode, clears through maps and melts bosses. This setup let me absolutely power through the campaign, and has allowed me to climb up the tiers in endgame mapping very quickly as well. Whilst maximizing your OPness and steamrolling content is fun, I did fancy a bit of a change. Being a slave to the female form is bad enough, I don't need to be a slave to the meta as well. While I was out on a Waystone map, I encountered a rogue Exile that was none other than a ranger. It was using a pretty interesting unique bow. After checking it out, reading up on how it worked, I decided to pick one up from the trade market at my level and center a whole build around it, changing up everything. I will say outright that this has categorically, objectively made me weaker. It is a nerf compared to the Lightning Arrow meta build. That is in its current iteration with how I've been using it. Maybe it can be brought in line with it or even surpass it, I don't know. I'd like to think so, that would be super fun, and that's something that I'm exploring. The unique in question is known as Fairgrave's Curse Artillery Bow, dealing a chunk of physical damage and a whole lot more fire damage, which you're probably going to want to boost up as well. It also increases the flammability and ignite magnitudes, reduces your life recovery rate, gives you 30 physical damage reduction from hits, and causes your hits to inflict spectral fire for 8 seconds, changing up how ignite works to be stored damage which explodes on enemy kill. It also, very importantly, grants you a new unique skill, Phantasmal Arrow. This is going to be our new Lightning Arrow, our new bread and butter. Everything is based on this skill. Phantasmal Arrow is an attack which has AoE, projectile, fire, duration, and barrageable tags, described as firing an arrow that embeds where it lands for a short duration. At the end of the duration, the arrow explodes in spectral flame, turning it to ashes and damaging enemies, with a high chance to ignite. Igniting any enemy with the explosion also applies ignite to enemies within range. The arrow itself doesn't really do anything, it just fires straight into the ground right in front of you. This was a bit of a shock to me. I was expecting it to go and embed onto the enemy itself. It is all about the explosion that occurs afterwards. This deals a large amount of attack damage, converting 100% of physical over to fire. It inflicts 200% more flammability magnitude. Ignites inflicted by it spread to other enemies that stay within 1.8 meters for 1 second, with an explosion radius of a couple of meters. In practice, what this looks like is you shooting an arrow in the ground just in front of you. It explodes after a short 1.5 second duration without any modifiers, dealing that high attack damage explosion with a very high propensity to ignite. The rate of fire is pretty low and you are brought to an absolute crawl, as you are with all skills when you hold them down. Pretty cool. So how can we make this work with some support skills? With my level 78 bow, my Phantasmal Arrow is level 18 and comes with 4 support skill slots, in which I've used fire penetration 2, making the hits from the supported skill ignore fire resistance, ignite 3, causing ignite to deal damage 15% faster and giving 200% more flammability magnitude, rapid attacks 2, giving 25% increased attack speed, and nova projectiles, firing 4 additional projectiles in a circle at the cost of dealing 40% less damage. In terms of passives, they're not very different from the Lightning Arrow ones at all. Of course, anything that is lightning or electrocute, in my case with the lightning rods, is highly specific and can be removed, but nodes that increase projectile damage, attack damage, elemental damage, they're all going to be great for this as well. I'm not purely offensive, I have plenty of evasion, I've got lots of deflect as well, trying my best to make sure that I don't get one shot, especially with this loadout over here when you're in the face of the enemy a lot more. And on top of that, I have tried to increase my attack speed wherever possible. I'm just a couple of levels off Falcon technique, that's going to help enormously as well. I've got cold shots and endless munitions on the ascendancy skills. I'm also pretty open to exploring the other ascendancy. The obvious choice might be Herald of Ash, but I didn't really feel like I was getting anything from that. I think with the instant kill style of the explosions from Phantasmal Arrow, it just didn't have the chance to really integrate with it. Out of absolutely absolutely everything, the best thing that you can do is use the rower mount, so you can constantly hold down the skill and barely have any reduction to your mobility, which this really suffers from. I've explored priming the Phantasmal Arrows with Gas Arrow first, sort of like Lightning Rods and Lightning Arrow in a sense. Didn't really seem worth it compared to just using Phantasmal Arrow consistently. What does work really nicely is using Rain of Arrows in advance from a distance, which can deal some really solid damage. You can have it maim, you can have it pin, and I'm exploring putting Fire Attunement on it as well to see how that works. Barrage is very effective with Phantasmal Arrow, especially if it's frenzy charged, so popping Sniper's Mark in cold shots to have some pretty consistent frenzy charge generation, especially if your critical chance is pretty good. You can seriously juice up Phantasmal Arrow with a powerful frenzy boosted barrage. Since you can only have one tamed companion without that extra node which drops your defenses by 30%, which I haven't opted for, I lost my physical damage aura companion, which is 40% increased physical damage, and by not using a herald, I also got rid of the herald damage nodes, which really helped out too, though some pretty big damage sources were removed immediately from switching over to this build. My main takeaway is that there is definitely something here. It is effective, it does work, it may not be as good as the meta, but it's pretty cool. It's certainly a breath of fresh air for me at least. I probably want to bump up my physical and fire damage as high as I can do, and perhaps look into switching my defense from high evasion and deflect to something like high energy shield, or at the very least just getting way more HP if that's even possible. It's been really fun exploring this different approach, and it actually feels like I'm playing the game once again rather than just bypassing it entirely, which can be fun in its own way as well, but sometimes you just want to change it up, right? There's definitely room for adjustments here, like using compressed duration, elemental armament too, maybe fire attunement on the Phantasmal Arrow itself. I've been bouncing around with different options, and these 4 skills that I've landed on here do seem like a really good combo, but I am very open to hearing your input, what you guys would do, or what you have done if you've tried this setup yourself, because I definitely want to enhance and optimize this where possible to allow it to reach its untapped potential and make it even more viable. I'm going to leave you with a bunch of footage running through a map so you can see how it performs unedited without anything popping up. If you enjoyed this video, I like making stuff like this for all sorts of different games. Feel free to subscribe for more, but either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in Rayclast.
No escape. This time. Run. Guillotine drops. Face your death. Guillotine.
Return to death. Death from above.
On you tomorrow! This